And so we will go ahead and get started. So I will call our meeting to order. This is the joint county council and city council, along with our mayor, and we have a commissioner joining us today. Today is Thursday, June 11th, 2026, and the time is 6:03. And so we have a quorum of county council. To my right here, we have councilors Wiltz, Henry. We also have Deckard and Feidel, and joining us virtually, we have Councilmember Hawk. And I will kick it over to the City Council Vice President, Sydney Zulik.
Thank you. Can we have the clerk call the roll, or should I just, okay, nope, I will announce people. Okay, we have council members Rallo, Stasberg, Flaherty, Zulik, Daly, and Ruff in attendance with us today. And I will kick it back to Councilmember Crossley.
Thank you very much. It's like a game of kickball. Okay, before we go ahead and get started with this, I want to go ahead and have the conversation with saying thank you to our city colleagues who have taken to the invitation to come with us together. I also want to give a special thank you to Mayor Carrie Thompson for joining us. But the other thing that I want to make sure that we also note as well too is that we do have a county commissioner, Commissioner Madeira, that is joining us as well. I know I've gotten some questions about who was invited and who's not, and so I wanted to say, as we had discussed on the 26th when we were making our decisions, that we wanted to have a joint collaboration with our city colleagues, with us here in the county as well. We did invite the commissioners and the sheriffs as well. However, we do have Commissioner Madeira here. Some individuals respectfully declined to participate, but nonetheless, we have what we need to have here to keep doing the business at hand. So we have that.
Council President Crossley?
Yes.
I got a note that Council Member Piedmont Smith is on Teams.
Oh, I am so sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
I didn't notice either. Just wanted to read it for the record.
Yay, we have everybody, or just about everybody. So I wanted to make sure that we are saying this, because in our last meeting, I know we kept saying, we're saying no to things, but we're saying yes. And saying yes is having this conversation, much as what we've had tonight. I think I dreamed about something like this much so than we did a few years ago when the convention center expansion conversation was happening. We got in a bigger room to talk. And I think we need to do more of this, and I appreciated that. That was actually something that Mayor Carey had said way back when, and I appreciate that. So without further ado, I will also say tonight's conversation is going to be a little different. I am not going to be chairing this meeting, but I think one of the biggest things that I wanted to do is sometimes leaders kind of have to take a step back and really try to look at some good things and people that really do some good work. And so I have asked for a co-facilitator, Kate Wiltz and Mayor Carey, to collaborate together, and we will do this together in a collaborative approach. And they both said yes to this, and I will kick it back over to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I can get started. I want to start by just saying that while I am happy to help facilitate discussion here, this meeting is really a collaboration session to see how the city can assist the county in getting a jail built. The jail is the county's project, obviously. The county runs the jail, the county will build the jail, but obviously the jail impacts our entire community. And so while the mayor does not per se have oversight over the jail, nor does the city council, this is something that impacts our entire community. And I won't speak for my council colleagues, but they have taken official action to express their desire to support innovative solutions around the jail, and I am here likewise to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to make sure that when this new jail gets built, and that is a foregone conclusion, we need a new jail, that we carry that project out in the best way possible. And so to that end, we have a couple of framing questions that we wanted to pose to the group tonight. And if we can, I get to kick it over to Kate, who's going to go through our operating assumptions and rules.
Our community rules.
Community rule.
Two things. I agree that this is meant to be very deliberative, very collaborative, and I really appreciate the support that the city colleagues here have shown just by even coming tonight. But what I'd like to make sure that we do is, especially for the county side of the table, but we've all taken time on this issue and said a lot of things. And I think we've been pretty clear on our opinions. And today I would respectfully ask that we stay focused on the questions that we're here to answer, and that we goals at hand, which are coming in a moment. The other thing is, of course, respect and, try to pass the little talkie baton, so to speak, in a generous manner. So we'll try to keep everybody on task, and we will try to keep us focused, and I just ask for your assistance with both those things. So when I was talking with Councilor Crossley and Mayor Thompson about what our goal today is, the things that came to the surface are we want to make sure that we, as a collective group here, align around where we are in this process and what's happening next. And in order to do that, I think we need to discuss and lay out next steps and a timeline for that, and identify the actions each of us, and as individuals and collectively, need to take to get to a jail, a construction of a jail, to be specific. So between today and jail construction, I'd like for us to think about what our roles are, what needs to happen, and we have some ideas on what needs to happen. That doesn't have to be whole cloth, but I think getting some agreement around how we get there, and doing so in a way that we can maybe make a formal commitment together to work on what we come up with as those items. That's a lot of words. Usually goals are more succinct than that. But I want, first of all, to see if anyone has an edit or a concern around that purpose for this meeting.
So I always have questions. So this one is there a timeline with which we think we're working?
Yes, I think that what we need to do is get there as fast as we can.
Okay.
And talk about what that looks like.
So I think that our meeting won't have much impact if we don't leave having made some official decisions on next steps that we can agree to. Those steps may have steps on the city part and on the county part. And while it's great to have deliberative dialogue, we really are in a position now where the county has to make some decisions. And so I would just ask that as we're we're talking tangibly about how we can participate in moving this forward, and what that will look like for each entity, each of 4 entities.
All right. To that end, I think it might be useful for, in sort of a brainstormy way, us to go around and each identify something that you see that needs to be done to get us toward the construction of the jail. And meaning that you don't have to come up with the full list yourself. Come up with one tangible item. We'll list the items, assuming that there are markers. Are there markers for that thing? Did we just get a whiteboard with nothing? Sorry, that was cut from the budget.
Don't worry, this is my time to take over with pink.
Is that like an erasable?
Whiteboard.
Oh, that's rough. I thought that was a
Yeah.
notepad.
See what I
I'll
have?
be right back.
We might have some in our office. Yeah, it looks like we are getting
No,
some.
that's a highlighter. Yeah, they're getting some. All right. In the meantime, I will write it on paper. Crazy. Could we start to my left?
Oh,
One thing.
one thing? I can't even introduce myself with one thing. Well, okay. I think we need a shared vision of what it is we're building. That has been elusive on the county side. The city partners, of course, don't have a direct say in that, but ultimately, when we say jail, which is what we were being sued over or challenged about, that is not a lot of the other things that have been added on over the past designs, right? So what is required versus what's desired, I think, and understanding that, right? We all share an understanding of that.
Commissioner Madeira?
I would say to build on that, we need that within a certain period of time. So we don't have forever, and it's not according to community preference. We also have that third party in the room. We need a deadline, but we also need something that's not just community preferable, but court preferable.
So I'll state the obvious, which is location, 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 because that obviously plays into a lot of things. But I won't take up too much longer because I think Councilmember Henry said it as well, is what do we need, what's required, and go from there.
I'm going to jump onto location as well, and in the premise that I hear from a lot of folks in the community that say they're not sure we have exhaustively put a call to the community for any and all location that fits kind of a criteria within the city. And so I would sort of say that to all of us. What are those places that are not places or what are those places that could be viable, perhaps could be viable with a slight relook from where they are now, and for us to think a little bit exhaustively around that with the demands that we have, which is that it's access to resources, et cetera, so that we're thinking creatively. And it could be the real estate communities engaged on that, could be just some other folks not in this room, but truly, what is the end-all be-all list of places that might factor into this so that we're not just siloed into, oh, we've been talking about that for a long time, so I'm just gonna keep saying that word. So that's what I'd offer.
So I think size. I think we have to agree on what size of a facility we need and what's. Oh. I'm coming. So I think size. What size do we need, and what is going to be in the facility, right? Oh, mine's not working.
Might need to pull it as close as possible.
So if I didn't need to say it again, it's size and what is the purpose of the size of the facility? What purposes are going to be in the facility? Is it just the jail? Is it going to be, what is it that's going to be in the facility?
Thanks. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll just cut to the chase. My preference has always been for a jail to be proximal to downtown, or within the city at least. I voted against the Fullerton option. I'm open-minded about various options, but I've always thought for decades now that Thompson was the site, the preferred site. So I'm in a position perhaps of a site location and zoning as any approval by council, and I'm looking forward to working with you to that end. But I'm sort of a tabula rasa. If you have ideas about where else it might go and what we can do, I'm open for that. North Park is not preferred by me, and I appreciate the efforts that has been done to preclude that. Thank you.
I have to jump on the location bandwagon. I think that seems to be a huge question right now, and we need to figure out where something is going to go and go from there.
I think some combination of several of county council colleagues, specifically what is required for a location. I think Councilor Friedel was getting at that. So depending on what your assumptions are about what is required as a bare minimum and on what timeline, that's going to dictate how creative we can be about location. And so narrowly scoping that to keep, I think, the locational options as flexible and as many as possible is, well, that's not a tangible step, that's a preference, but that's where I was going.
Cool. I'm going to take us a different route. I am curious as to the number of beds that we actually need and how that number might change with different prevention efforts. I think that prevention is one of the opportunities that the city has to better collaborate with the county. If we decrease the amount of beds, the project is, in theory, less expensive. So.
Kind of going back to the, pulling back further, what we need between now and the end of this process, and other things that we need to kind of keep in mind and put on the table is we need community buy-in. We also need buy-in, and support from the sheriff's office as well. We need to take their viewpoints all into consideration as well.
How does this, do you have to hold your finger on it the entire time?
Nope, you just talk.
Just talk. So there's probably 1,000 people in this town that know far more about this issue than I do, the practical nature of it, the history of it, the needs, everything. So I say this in all humility to weigh in any way, shape, or form. But I think with any location, I really want to see, I would like to see, I think the community needs to see some, what I would call full cost accounting of what the full costs are. Not just construction costs, but impacts on incarcerated folks, their families, all the environmental impacts of all the comings and goings, not just environmental impacts of materials and construction, of decades and decades of comings and goings compared to where it is now. Impacts on existing users in whatever area it might go. Put a dollar value to all these things. I know it's hard, but come up with some kind of dollar value that if we move and build a new facility in a new place, it's going to have some real impacts on existing uses and users, residents, business, whoever's there, any institution like this. And so I would really like to see accounting for those costs when we actually make comparisons for different possible locations. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we have two members who are joining virtually. Council Member Hawk, would you like to offer input?
Yes. What I'd like to make sure is, boy, this is making noises here. I'd like to make sure that we recognize the purpose of this meeting was for location. At least that's what the agenda showed me. And I think that if you're ever going to get to the end of what we need to do, we have to start. And the start is finding the right location. And certainly we already have property that's paid for. If we can make that work, I would like to see it there. If it doesn't work there, then I would like for us to move on to Fullerton. But what we need to see is which of those two would the county council and city council agree to, because we know that planning has to help with that. And we also need to make sure that we are in agreement on that. And we understand starting the process is not having to do with what's going to be in the jail. It has to do with the location. We need to get that started first.
Thank you. And Councilmember Piedmont Smith?
Yes, thank you. I would just add concurrent to the construction of a jail. There should be continued collaboration on prevention efforts. And also on, well, this is more just county, but continued support of the current jail and immediate remedies to any unconstitutional aspects of the current jail, because whatever it is that we agree to, no matter how fast we go, it'll be a few years before there's a new jail. Thank you.
Have any other council members joined online that have not been called upon yet? No, we're good. Okay. I'll add my 2 cents. I would agree location is the most important thing for us to figure out. That is, of course, impacted by the various other questions that have been brought up by these bodies. And I would say the way I would frame the location would be we need to expedite the process for a single alternative location. And I would frankly recommend doing that with a smaller body that comes back to a larger body, because with the court case as it is, we've already run out of time. And so an exhaustive process on many different properties is probably unrealistic, especially because that process would warrant a design specific to each one of those sites. And so I think if we want to make some progress, my 2 cents would be, let's pick a single alternative site fairly quickly. Not in this meeting, to be clear.
Thanks. And I think what
You should carry it.
Okay. I think what the mayor said actually kind of sums up a lot of what's here. Not everything, of course. That in order to streamline our work tonight, that we should focus on how we get to the location, because that's a tangible that we know we have to have before we can go any further. And we have a lot of information from the work that our transition teams have done, and we do have a lot of information about size and related purposes for the design that exists, and we know kind of preferences from the various county departments involved in a justice center and what they have said they need, and the scaled back version of what they say they need as well, given budget constraints. So we've had a lot of that information gathered. I I totally see how that is related to and will inform what happens on a site that we choose. But we need to get to a site. And in order to vet sites or a site, there are probably some key things that have to be either discussed, decided, or just have happen. I'm thinking around, I think it was Councilor Rollo who said something along the lines of zoning. We know that there are processes. If we are looking in city limits, and that I'm kind of gathering that's, from the letter, from what I've heard discussed, that is a preference that we build in city limits. If we can make that assumption as a boundary, then we can take a next step and look at what are the processes and steps that get us from just having some ideas around what properties might work to building on a site. Reactions and thoughts about that?
So are we looking for factors for a site?
I honestly don't think that we can. I think we've vetted a lot of the factors already. And that's what a lot of this is, really.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot up there that I would put on a list. So I would summarize 6 factors for a site, just to be bold.
I will take notes on those.
I would say that we need site control. The county owns it and can acquire it immediately. I think we need legal permissibility. The zoning or permitting path is clear and fast. I think we need construction feasibility. There's no or few known utility, road, environmental, geotechnical, or design barriers that cause major delay.
Slow down so she can
Yep.
write it down.
The second is, so we need site control or county ownership, legal permissibility, or zoning, clear of zoning or permitting paths, construction feasibility, so no known utility, road, environmental, geotechnical, design, major delays. We need operational adequacy. In other words, sheriff and design professionals confirm that it can support their needs, classification, circulation, intake. We need a fiscal path. Can we fund it and vote on a timeline? And is it defensible to a court? In other words, can council present it as a reasonable, timely remedy in federal litigation? I'm guessing that 6 hangs on the rest of them. Yeah. But I think that that's, a good independent consideration too.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is that okay? That's related. And pardon my ignorance on this because I just don't follow this issue as closely as you all do, of course. Implicit in a lot of what's being talked about is that the urgency of ensuring we have a constitutional justice or jail, and that we need to have a plan in place. Is it impossible, or is it possible? And how much have you all explored? And again, I don't mean to derail. I'm just curious because it informs this. How flexible that timeline is, not based only on what the plan is, but how much we are resourcing an existing building that may be unconstitutional in its level of care now. I don't know. But is it, I guess I'm asking, is it possible with a real investment, several million a year, I don't know, something, to buy yourselves 2 years while you think more creatively? Or so I'm seeing a head shaking no, so someone thinks it's impossible.
Can we kick that back to our county attorney who probably knows the answer to that?
Molly's right there, so.
Yeah.
So just to make sure I understand the question, is your question inquiring whether it's possible to remedy the current conditions to, in essence, buy time on building the lost?
Even on a temporary basis.
Okay. So let me pull up. In 2020, the county had a study commissioned by Mr. Kinray, and that study lists several unconstitutional or conditions that would need remedied.
I have read that.
Most of those conditions require the addition of space. And so I don't think that it would be possible to add space to the current facility. There is a cost, and I can try to find it, a cost analysis of what, of those conditions we could fix, what it would cost. And if you give me a second, I can try to find it. But
If any other county councilors want to weigh in. I'm
I think
sorry.
Mr. Cockrell's going to come weigh in while I look at that, look for that document.
Maybe that the consensus view of county elected officials is that it's impossible to buy time through investment in the current facility. Okay, I see some heads going either way.
I guess my response, and Jeff Cockrell, County Attorney, my response is there's probably not a way to avoid additional litigation, but I would anticipate that once the litigation begins, if we had some kind of settlement agreement, there would be some interim steps that, I mean, I think it's been mentioned before, we're not going to be able to build this jail in the next few years, right? So there has to be some interim steps that we could take as that process is going forward. What those are and what those, I mean, that's a matter that we'll have to get to.
Okay.
Does that answer
is
your
very
question?
helpful. Thank you. Again, I didn't mean to derail. It sounds like there is a little bit of a diversity of viewpoint. It has bearing, just like how many beds has bearing on site selection. And so I'm not in a position to say one way or another if that's possible, but I wanted to ask. Thank you.
I have a different clarifying question. I've heard different.
Calling you next, Councilmember Rallo. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I just actually following up on Councilmember Flaherty's his question. There was overflow space located in the county parking garage. Is that being utilized right now, and is there any possibility for that to be expanded on?
I don't think that they're really.
It's tried.
That's where the Stride Center is, and there's no other space allotted to. Okay.
No.
Just checking. Thanks.
It's not significant square footage either.
Is Thompson zoned for a jail?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if everyone else is thinking this, but that does seem like one of the more appealing properties out of the ones that we have, and
Yeah.
it's currently on the table, so it might be worth starting there.
I'd like to make a public motion that we stop referring to it as the Thompson property.
It's Thompson with a P.
It's not Thompson with a P. Did somebody else have their hand up? No, that we missed. Okay, yeah, I did. President Costa.
I'll just go ahead and say, I think the idea for us, because, which is why I'm I am glad that we have our city colleagues here, is the fact that we've heard so much assumptions of what the city's process is. And so for me personally, I kind of want to hear from the city in terms of, like, what is the process? Because you all know best, especially if we're talking about properties within city limits. What does that look like? Because we need to know. I think everybody needs to know, and it would be great to hear from city to say, like, you know, from county's perspective, this is what we need from you all in order to make things work. Because again, there's been a lot of assumptions and a lot of things that have been said, maybe not by city, and I'd like to hear from city how that would work.
The process and how long it takes depends entirely on what kind of zoning changes need to be made. And so, you know, some things can get done at the administrative level. Other things have to go to Plan Commission and even council. I I have and will recommit to the administrative side being as expedited as we possibly can. We would put this at the top of the stack and absolutely work in an expedited fashion. And I'll leave it to council colleagues to reflect on their process, but it really is site dependent and what's going on that site.
I'm not who made me. Yeah. Thank you. I maybe want to put a hypothetical out in the room because we need to test how Plan Commission and the city would take a request. And I know council members Rollo and Ruff were on council, I think when the county purchased the Curry building, which is right next to the current Zitlow building. In 2003 and 2005, the county committed to investments in that building to add it into the justice system. We had the family court in there. Suppose we said that we own that property, Curry and Fight, or what is now the garage, but was the Ficus building. We said, look, if we were to level that and build a vertical or a different jail, compact urban form in that space, we own the property. It's right next door. It's sort of surrounded by probation and clerks, and it's down here. But it's urban. It would clearly be a problem with ingress egress for a while to do such a build versus in the not Thompson property. What would that look like coming to the city? Where if the county were to say, we own this property, it's in the urban core, it's next to our justice building, it has a historical piece to it, with the Curry building being a historical building. What does that mean for Plan Commission, historic preservation? Like, to me, let me just throw that out there to test what that sounds like across the table if that was a solution.
Is it a historically designated building right now?
I believe the Curry part is, or at least the facade, but I'd have to check that, yeah.
It can be undesignated through request of the owner, I believe, but that's a process that has criteria.
That's
through
a few weeks.
What's that?
That's like weeks or months or?
My gut would be a couple of months, maybe faster if expedited. I think it has to go through HPC and then to the city council. That's my, yes. I'm not certain offhand, but yes.
I am the Historic Preservation Commission liaison. I'm happy to check with our staff liaison and the chair of the commission and get back to you on that.
I like the, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the other part of that site is I don't actually know what the downtown zoning layer says about jails. I mean, I know the jail is currently listed there, but I'm not sure what it says now in terms of something being new. So I don't know if that would be, so I mean, I'm trying to look it up right now, but UDO is really long and I don't usually look at that overlay layer. It's kind of in a different spot than what I end up usually being faced with, so.
I feel very favorable toward it personally. I wonder if the proposal would be, and this might add to expense, of course, to maintain some kind of the historic facade of the building. It might be possible, and that might expedite it too with the HBC, et cetera. But
Councilor Zulik?
Oh, I was just wondering if there were any types of grants for that type of thing. No? Okay.
Councilmember Piedmont Smith has her hand raised a lot.
Thank you. Councilmember Piedmont Smith?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to go back to the Thompson site. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to call it, Mayor. But I did want to relay some information that I received from the City Director of Planning and Transportation, David Hiddle. So he said, a jail is allowed as a permitted by right use in Tract D in the Thompson PUD via approval of case PUD 1202, which amended the original Thompson PUD. One condition of approval requires that the site plan for any jail must be approved by the Plan Commission, unlike other by right uses, which require only approval from staff. Another condition of approval states, quote, any jail facility will be a public, not a private facility, and will generally conform to the size, location, and population density proposed by the petitioner at this time. And the associated staff report references plans showing an approximately 170,000 square foot, 400 bed jail. So I just wanted to relay that information. So it was a conditional approval that it would be similar in size to what I just said. I don't know. I mean, I think if it went back through Plan Commission, like the site plan has to go through Plan Commission anyway. So I don't know if PUD amendment would be required to go to Plan Commission first, because if you don't stay within the 170,000 and 400 beds, and I don't know what the latest proposal of the size of the jail is, but I wanted to relay that information.
Thank you. The Councilmember Strasburg.
Kind of related to that, if we're talking about the site off Rogers Street, formerly known as the Thompson site, that anything there would have to go to Plan Commission simply because it's above a certain size, so it has to go through Plan Commission. And as long as you work with staff and tick the boxes, I mean, we had one last night that essentially it was by right because it checked all the boxes, but because it was more than a certain size, it had to have that public hearing piece. Plan Commission tends to have 2 hearings as kind of a thing. You can always waive the second hearing depending on what the build is, how well it ticks the boxes. I mean, if you come at the first hearing and it's an impeccable plan and it meets all of the necessary guidelines related to design and all of those things for the zoning, often they do end up skipping the second hearing. We just waive the second hearing and approve it through. That is a process that doesn't involve council at all. It only involves Plan Commission. If something has to have a change of zoning, which I don't think the Thompson site would actually need a change of zoning, then it would have to go through Plan Commission and then through council to approve a zoning change, because council is the body that has to approve the zoning changes, but it has to come as a recommendation from the Plan Commission. So it really does, as Mayor Thompson said earlier, depend on which site you want to do and what the current zoning is of the site. I, as the member of the Plan Commission from council, I don't think that body would be a crazy impediment. Especially depending once again on the zoning and how well it kind of ticks all of those boxes that are pretty standard. It just takes working with our planning and zoning staff, or our planning and transportation staff, to help you through those guidelines, because I mean the UDO is complex, just as the county development ordinance is also complex, and those staff members are the best ones to help lead any development project through. Commissioner Madeira.
So in the interest of process and getting back to the purposes of this meeting, I would like to suggest that we move on from discussion of specific properties to discussion of the process. I do think that that the Power Lines property is going to be a political fig leaf that ultimately buys us 6 months of process before it collapses before a federal judge because of the 2 years of pole moving that I think that we have at the end. I spoke with Duke on Monday, and I'm happy to go into that at a later time. I do think that that's something we need to discuss in front of a smaller body at a later time. But that is, I think, outside the ambits of this meeting. But I would like to hear more about the city process. And going back to Mayor Thompson's comment about putting us at the top of the stack. When we are at the top of the stack, what happens from that point on? How long is that process, assuming we would need to go through the Planning Commission and then through the City Council?
If you had everything in, if the file was absolutely complete when it was submitted, I would say the fastest we could probably, and somehow waived the second Plan Commission, and the council now can discuss on first reading, which means they, in theory, could decide on a first reading. So if all of those things happened, feasibly, you could get through in 4 months. That's a lot of ifs, but that is, I would say that's the fastest expedited process that I would anticipate. Councilmember Crossley.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that because we got the current Plan Commission person here, or council member here, Councilmember Sussberg, because that was going to be my next question, because we've heard so many times it's a 6 to 9 month process, but from what I gather, what you just said, if there's no changes that needs to happen, it technically doesn't have to have the two-prong approach where it goes for planning and then it goes to council. Is that my understanding?
If there's no need for a zoning change, it doesn't go to council. If there's a zoning change need, then it does have to go to council because council's the only one that can make that kind of legislative change.
Okay.
Including an adjustment to the PUD.
Right.
So just because a jail is allowed, if you change the size, that is a change to the PUD, which does have to go to council.
Right, but not the false evidence appearing real factor of an idea of it going like beyond a 6 to 9 month process.
No, I mean,
Okay.
it really does depend on how much you have your ducks in a row in the beginning, because there are, boxes to check in terms of staff and bringing things to council or bringing things to Plan Commission. And, until the package is complete, staff won't bring it to Plan Commission, right? And so it just really depends on how well you have your ducks in a row in terms of that 6 to 9 month. I mean, Mayor Thompson said 4 months. I would say that almost could be faster if you really have your ducks in a row. I mean, there's a Plan Commission meeting every month, and except for summer recess, there's at least 2 council meetings a month that it can get dealt with. If there was a great deal of transparency and communication, if there did have to be a zoning change, thus necessitating it going through council, if there was a great deal of communication with both Plan Commission and City Council kind of at the same time, so when City Council gets it, it's not like starting from scratch, then that process part can be expedited too in terms of the minimum amount of turnaround between Plan Commission and council. Because, I mean, that's sometimes, and I as the Plan Commission person, I'm like, okay, like I'm going to be strategic about when this goes to council because it's something big, or I think that council's going to want to put amendments on it, and so let's give it a little bit more time before it goes to council. If council's really aware of it, then, I mean, it can go to council pretty quickly after the Plan Commission meeting. And, it really just depends on how good the communication is beforehand, and then just timing the process out in terms of when meetings are. I'll tell you, it would be kind of rough to try to throw this in August because of budgets, right? So some of that has some dependency too in terms of council's schedule.
Okay. So I'm going to encourage us to move out of the nitty-gritty details of a planning process, and it may be that you ask for commitments on expediting to the best of our ability and engaging, et cetera. But I think for the purpose of this meeting, we'll get bogged down in a lot of details that may or may not need to happen. And I think we have some sort of broad timelines. And so I'm going to invite Councilmember Zulik to comment. Question.
Sure. Thank you. Would it, at this point in time, be best to set up a working group to work through some of the more nitty-gritty details?
The meeting?
I think that would be one of a group of positive outcomes from this meeting.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to make a proposal on delegation to that group?
Like, yeah.
How many from each body? Who needs to be on it, et cetera?
I would recommend, as city executive, if somebody from county executive wants to be a part of it as well, and then of course a representative from city and county council, I would think sounds good plan.
I would agree.
County executive as well, you mentioned, okay?
Mm-hmm.
4 people?
Yeah. Unless other people have other objectives, because I think sometimes when we have bigger groups of things, we kind it's not to say that we can't have, the smaller working group come back to the larger body and have a conversation. But I think that could happen where we have a smaller working group that has the task of what we are all saying and taken from this meeting, go work on it, and then bring it back to the larger body. Unless anybody else has any other suggestions, I think that would be.
And is that larger body this group, or is it the county council? County commissioners? What is the next step?
I think it would be worth meeting all together again.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that while we're proposing this, we make it time bound, so that we know we're getting a team together that's available in the near term, and whoever's volunteering can make appropriate time commitments. So, Kate?
Time and task?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, because what would this subgroup of 4, what would their purpose be? Because I think Councilmember Zulik said, like, for that nitty-gritty kind of detail stuff, but so is that like a site selection, and then you go, okay, like on this site, what would the steps all be? And is that the same subgroup that we should have discussing what those sites are? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm asking? Or should there be, because like, I guess I'm kind of looking at that and going, should we only have a subgroup of those 4 debating or discussing the different possible locations versus a subgroup of those 4, like, running through the details of the chosen possible locations sounds reasonable. But should there be?
I think for highest efficiency, my proposal would be that that subgroup is going to propose the best 2 or 3 locations, and come equipped with the zoning and other implications of each of those sites for a larger group to make a single recommendation to move forward.
I think that there are only 2 or 3 locations possible. I mean, I'm not saying that there can't suddenly be, from the ether, someone arriving with another location, but in all of our discussions, it has narrowed to really only 2 or 3 or 4 max, maybe, that could possibly work if we are talking about within city limits.
Councilmember Henry.
I would add, and this is more procedural, to help that group conduct its business. We have 2 types of government sitting in the room here. A strong mayor system can release notes from your office on your administrative tasks. The county council has never been privy to the full set of notes that the Board of Commissioners have used to determine and disqualify sites over the past 6 months. I really asked the Board of Commissioners to release all the documentation from executive session to that body, so it can look and not reinvent the wheel and duplicate effort that's already been done to dismiss or include sites. We've never seen that material, and so Commissioner Madeira, I just ask respectfully if we could take that back to your peers. It would be rather great to see those notes, because we did bring, I think, up to 6 sites over between January and May that never came into the public view. They were in executive session. You all need to know that, otherwise you're going to be flying blind. We need to see those notes.
Jeff, have those been released? Are they on the drive?
I'm not aware of any executive session that the commissioners have to discuss property that involve the county council. So I guess I'd start with that. I don't know what we're talking about with the 6 sites. I mean, I will tell you, I get emails I got emails a couple weeks ago about people who say, hey, what about this site? What about that site? I guess maybe I'm missing what you're asking.
Yeah, well, I'll ask it again. And if I have to go as far as actually naming the sites we talked about in executive session, I'll do it. I mean, we brought multiple sites to those meetings and discussed them. They were eliminated for different factors. One, I believe, had a DLZ overlay that we never saw made public off of TAP, I think was one of the properties. So those are the list of properties that our peers would need to look at, so they're not flying blind and making the same assumptions and reinventing the wheel.
I thought I heard that there was meetings outside the council that had.
It's loud in here, Jeff. Yeah.
And I apologize, but
I'm screaming over a fan.
But I guess I have no problem having those. I mean, we have those notes. I mean, you have those notes. I think we could share them with the group as long as.
We have legal guidance not to share those, but if we can get those released is what I'm asking. Right?
I guess
this is in the weeds, but all I'm asking is that we provide that subcommittee the same information so they don't reinvent the wheel. So
I guess from my perspective, some of those are held by private individuals. I would want to reach out to them first to make sure they're aware that we're releasing that information. I'm not sure any of them will have any concerns with that. But that's just the courtesy that I would do, to let them know that that is occurring. That doesn't stop it from occurring. It's just reaching out to them first.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume that legal counsel will make an attempt to release all possible documents, and we have Zulik, Flaherty.
Thank you. Overall, I think the thrust of like where this the structure that's being proposed could work. To make it effective, it seems like we need to spend more time in this meeting trying to like at least get a fuzzy universe of assumptions that are shared, because it seems like the different tangible steps that people were outlining all impact any site location. So flexibility of timeline, number of beds, these kinds of things. And then Commissioner Madeira kind of laid out her 6 factors as a synthesis of that. But I think there's a diversity of opinions. So like one factor, like acreage, like is there like a minimum assumption that people have in mind about acreage, and does that vary? Is there anything credible we could actually like all agree on, for that committee to be working with? I don't know how much progress we can make on those types of questions. Back to, I still have questions about the constitutionality thing, and if it's mainly space related, what are outside the box options of transporting some people, or in the near term? Maybe that's not possible. Again, but just like putting it on the table is like, if we're talking about creative solutions like Councilor Deckard encouraged at the beginning, knowing how much those factors can move depending on some different pieces really impacts a lot the viability and possibility of different sites. And so if we can't like get somewhere on that, or at least people can't, at minimum, I'd love for the county electeds to all kind of share what they think are the requirements, kind of in a similar way that Commissioner Madeira did, so we can at least get that out there and hear the viewpoints and see what coalesce around.
So I'm going to just take a point of privilege in response to that, I think to that end, it would be good to have, at least to invite, and I know we invited Sheriff tonight, but somebody from the Sheriff's team and Judge, if they're able to participate. They are the insiders who have the most knowledge about the building and how things operate. And so while we're getting creative, it would be good to have at least invitation extended to members of those 2 groups, I believe. Councilmember Zulik.
Thank you. Councilmember Daly and I both have to leave at 7:15, and I realized that we will no longer have quorum for council at that point in time. So I just want to raise that.
Thank you for letting us know. Councilmember Rallo.
So this may be a naive question, but have you all resolved on the county side whether everything needs to be co-located? Because you were talking about a site location where it would be a campus, but does it preclude things like having courts here, having the Curry building utilized, phasing things? In other words, then attending to the Justice building, renovating that, then having another site in process that could then expand occupancy of the jail. Is that part of the menu here, or are we looking at one single site for everything? Is that, where are we?
So I'll take a hit at that from just listening to the general conversation of everybody, right, and county government. I think there is a strong desire to co-locate because we see the needs for having everything in one particular location. We see the need, like as we have it so good right now, currently downtown, of ensuring that, attorneys, public defenders, everybody in the same area would be able to get to certain things, because I understand caseloads and things like that. With people kind of going back and forth, it's a lot. With co-location, and I'm not saying one way or another, so if somebody hears something, please don't at me or send me an email about it. I'm just saying the general question since you asked it. What I think I've heard concerns from colleagues is the co-location amount. And so I think a long time ago, I think the idea and, the crystal ball is to have everything all at once right where. And then SB1 came into, the situation and kind of changed the game for a lot of different things. I think maybe the idea, and colleagues can jump in if I, say anything different, was to try to do that. And then SB1, with the restrictions of a lot of different things, really kind of put a pause on that. Plus, the cost, as we talked about so many different times, with everybody wanting certain, things that we've asked for, that just kept ballooning. And so right now, I think the general consensus is, what does that look like? Because it goes back to the beginning of what is required and in this whole ordeal versus, what we need to bring along with it in the beginning. So I think the idea is to try to potentially do things in phases, maybe to get to that co-location. But again, I think it also depends on the location aspect of everything as well. And again, colleagues, please feel free to jump in if I, need to add anything or misspoke.
One thing we know from our system is that even if you choose not to do co-location, you're still managing and paying for not being co-located. So when President Crosley talks about that proximity and location, you've got everything from transportation to transportation of your prosecutors, your public defenders, and every other apparatus to it. And so while the SB1 has set us back on how we would do this, we know the county will be figuring out all of those details alongside every elected official in the system. Council funds it, but they will have to figure out the management of that and logistical system, because we've been co-located since, at least since they've been in the Justice Building, and maybe even when they were in the near the old City Hall.
I'm going to jump in because we know we will lose city council quorum in 10 minutes and suggest that someone might want to make a formal resolution for the record on our next steps that we can commit to. And I think we have some elements up there. We still haven't talked about a timeline for when this group would have its first meeting, and then when it would be prepared to come back to the larger group.
I think that it would be a good idea for the working group to evaluate two to three locations, assess the pros and cons of each of them, and come back to this body with a recommendation on a location and an explanation on the thresholds and the criteria that were considered.
Commissioner Madeira?
Yes, and I'll just note that since I'm the only commissioner present tonight, I will have to take this back to my colleagues and consult with them as well.
Thank you.
But to be fair, though, we can still move forward with the working group. Okay, all right, that's what I want to make sure, because, yeah.
Member Deckard?
And since we have a working motion that we're drafting here, I would add to President Zulick's comments that if any of the entities specified, Commissioner, Mayor, County Commissioner, Bloomington Common Council, Sheriff, or judges, for any reason cannot participate or opt out, that the commission would continue its work under the timeline to come back.
I propose 3 months.
3 months. Okay, do you have a clarifying question?
I was just wondering if the working group would be public meetings or not, just as a logistical.
I don't think there's likely to be a requirement of that because it's not going to be a quorum of any body.
Correct.
Can I just say, I'm concerned about that approach. I think the public's going to demand more transparency and more knowledge about just the whole process of selecting these locations and a small group bringing forward. I mean, we've already said here that location is the critical element. I have concerns about that approach.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
I'll just say that I kind of share those concerns, but I think on the timeline that we're doing, I don't think that it's necessarily practical to have all of those meetings public. And that was kind of why I was asking, is that, you know, if they did have to be public, then that would, I think, change our timeline. But I think some kind of mix of those in terms of that transparency of going, here's our big list, and then privately whittle down to a smaller list, and here's the smaller list and why. Might be a compromise on that kind of thing that could make sure that the public is well informed about what is happening.
Daly?
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable as long as like the reasoning for each of the locations, why they were looked at, and then why they were rejected or moved forward.
So would this magic group take input from the public?
I think we need to make it public who's on that group, and yes.
And some legal opinion.
You should probably come to the microphone.
I can summarize what Jeff's going to say. I think the attorneys in the room conferred, and I believe if you formally form this group, it's subject to open doors, so these have to be public meetings.
What I was thinking. Is that true even if there's only one council member on the group, or do there have to be 2 city council members in order for it to have to be public?
But regardless, why would it not be public? Why would that slow this down? You just advertise a series of meetings once a week for the next 6 weeks and then come back. And to me, you just do it. And
So
I
who
realize
will be doing that? What body is going to publicly notice?
I think much like we did this meeting today, it would be a joint effort, like working with county council and then working in tandem with, I know the clerk's office has to do the notices, and staff also we have to make sure that, the biggest thing is making sure that staff is available to be at these meetings before we can commit to that. But the biggest thing that we need to make sure is that staff from county and city clerk's office is available for those as well too.
Okay, so it's been decided that there's going to be public meetings. We know who's doing the noticing. I think we're down to 4 minutes, and I think we have a somewhat formed resolution, but I haven't heard it. When is the deadline for? Is it realistic that the group could meet for the first time within 1 week from today, an initial meeting?
Well, I think that goes to which council members should be on the group. I mean, it's pretty.
We don't even know who we're talking about here.
And then Commissioner Madeira, of course, has to go back to the commissioners. So maybe that doesn't matter. But is there a particular county council member or city council member that anybody would like to nominate or self-nominate or think makes most sense in this working group?
Yeah. Councilor Deckard?
I recommend that we trust the presidents of both of the councils to appoint a member. Those presidents would likely poll their members, and the rest would take care of itself.
City council has no more regular sessions, and so yeah, somebody has to do it now.
I'm happy to do it. I'm also happy to appoint one of you. I'm in town for all of recess, so I am available.
I'm not in town for all of recess, but I'm wondering how much my involvement with Plan Commission matters right now.
I can keep you informed.
Always be supplemental.
Yes, that's true. Any?
So, you guys have recusal issues?
What? Sorry?
Would you guys have recusal issues? So, for example, if Hopi served and this later came before the Plan Commission, would there be recusal issues?
I think it's been decided that Zulik's serving.
Okay, great.
I will keep you informed.
Okay.
And I will appoint myself to serve on the working group, but I believe we have to have a motion first to actually form the working group.
When I agreed at the fairly last minute that I would sit here and help facilitate, I admitted that Robert's rules was not my thing.
There was a motion.
I'll move on City Council's behalf. I'll move to participate in a working group with the other Monroe County officials that are, and the mayor. I don't know how to say it. I mean, Monroe County. Technically, she's the mayor of Bloomington. She also lives in Monroe County. So anyway, to have a county council member or city council member on the working group as is listed on the whiteboard right now. How about that?
That's a long motion.
I know, right? It was horrible.
Did you get that, Clerk Bolden?
Really sorry, Clerk Bolden.
We can't hear you guys because of the fans.
Oh. Sorry, I'm not used to this room. So I'm moving that City Council participate in the working group as is listed on the whiteboard right now.
And so we call for a vote of just City Council once we get a second on that?
Yes. Can someone please second?
Daly seconded.
Great. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Sure.
Councilmember Rallo?
Yes.
Strasburg?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Zulik?
Yes.
Daly?
Yes.
Ruff?
Yes.
Piedmont?
I can't see the whiteboard, so I'm gonna
Anyway, it's
pass.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That passes, and I will appoint myself to be on that working group. I also just want to note that we should add the prosecutor's office and the public defender's office to that group to be invited.
Uh-oh, does that change?
And could I also say, Hopi, Councilmember Strasburg mentioned sort of what she called a compromise approach to being very public on the larger number of sites and the accessibility to information for why a site was selected or rejected, and then taken to the smaller group.
Yeah, but then I think the attorneys decided they all had to be public meetings, so it doesn't really apply anymore.
And so we also need to have a motion
Yes.
from our side. So I'm looking into my colleagues to see how that will work.
I'll do my best here, and I'll do this, Madam President, in the spirit that this moves us towards resolution in collaboration with our city partners who are graciously here today. Thank you. I would move that the county council similarly appoint a representative via the appointment of the president of the council to join with the other county entities, commissioner, the sheriff, judges, prosecutor, public defender, as well as the mayor and the Bloomington City Council to make a recommendation on moving this forward towards 2 to 3 locations with a recommendation of 1. Second. Other timelines.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion from council colleagues on this? Seeing none. Michelle, may we please have a roll call vote?
I didn't hear who seconded.
It was Councilmember Henry.
Counselor Crossley? Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Fidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
And so before we end, would it be okay for us to say within the next, let's have a goal line of maybe no later than 1 month to reconvene, since I know there's travel sessions and you all are on council recess, but you will be here, so that we can get back in the saddle of things. So, yes.
I think that's a great suggestion. I just want to maybe clarify a little bit. In 1 month, this body will reconvene to hear the recommendation on a site from the subcommittee that we just formed.
That sounds correct.
Got it. Want to make sure I had understood.
It might be worth meeting several times to talk about the criteria that we decided on, and then come back to it as a group, have that discussion.
Sure.
And then go back in and apply it to those site plans, just so that we're all on the same page with what we decided on immediately.
I don't think we have time.
But I think the idea for us right now for this subgroup and for the timeline that we are kind of on is making sure that we get this done and reconvene within the next month. Does that?
So the subgroup was going to meet, and then we could all come back and meet, right?
Correct.
Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, the subgroup will meet as many times as they want between now and then.
Yes.
In public meetings, figuring out. There is so much information that hasn't been shared publicly about sites that are possible. And I have a feeling if we can work through that, to Councilor Henry's point, and share it with that small group and hopefully the public, I mean, that will change the trajectory of all of this.
Yeah.
Because it will become clear, I think, what the negotiables are and what the pros and cons are. And I think, that's all I can really say.
Sure.
I have faith.
Commissioner Madeira.
So I'll just reiterate the position of my colleagues that as we get closer to litigation, we will be consulting with litigation counsel, and that litigation counsel will also have reflections on the property and the propriety of characteristics. So that will also come into the conversation.
Thank you. Keeping that in mind, but also knowing that we still have a work in progress to do. So, with that being, yeah.
Are you appointing somebody now?
That's what I was just going to ask. Do we know who's going to volunteer so I can put that in our notes? Or are you working on that tonight?
Yeah, President Crossley, are you going to appoint somebody tonight?
I will look at two colleagues to see who would like to volunteer themselves. It is not me. Anybody?
I'll step up if no one else wants to,
Okay.
or no one else can. I'm available.
Does anybody have any objections? No objections? Okay. Tag, you're at Councilmember Fidel.
Thank you.
All right.
Clerk Bolden, can I get a read on exactly what the resolutions said about, is it a member of the administration or is it me in particular that's going to participate in this body? My calendar can be prohibitive to rapid fire public meetings with less than a month's notice. Okay, I had heard it as a member of the administration.
So shall we just make sure that we clarify that we are happy to accept a delegate from your office?
The mayor or her designee?
That's a good word.
Perfect.
And I'll note that my motion was what was on the board, and the board did get truncated in a couple of ways. So the mayor, admin, and commiss, yeah.
Okay.
I would similarly say on our end that we would, that's awesome, and that we would accept the commissioners and their designee as well, in the spirit that we're moving collaboratively to move this forward.
Yep. That is the goal, and that was the goal of this meeting.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your collaboration tonight. Do you all have to vote to leave?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for stepping